17th of September. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. Sorry, it's the 18th of September. A few things have changed over the last couple of hours, and we'll get to that in just about a moment. But the big story is the President Buhari's new Economic Advisory Council, which has been receiving a lot of comments since the announcement was made day before yesterday, so 2 days ago. So let's keep that in the news for everyone. The head of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Muda Yusuf, says it's a commendable action, and he commended Mr. President, saying that the stature, the pedigree, and the independence of the members of the council are clearly not in doubt. He went on to say in a 3-paragraph statement issued late yesterday that the economy needs such a team to pull the economy back from the brink. And President Buhari was advised to give Dunyi Salami's team ample scope, responsibility, and authority to provide the much-needed guidance and advice to the central government. Meantime, the Central Bank of Nigeria issued notice of higher rates for cash deposits and withdrawals. This will be effective September the 18th. That's coming through today. The announcement came yesterday, the 17th of September. So effective today, the Central Bank says if you're making lodgements as an individual, any amount above 500,000, you'll be paying a processing fee of 2%. And if you're making withdrawals, any naira above 500,000 will attract 3% processing fee. For body corporates, the amount was 3 million. Any figure above that will attract 3% processing fee for your deposits and 5% if you are doing withdrawal as a body corporate. On the flip side of that, the financial regulator also says the service charge. Okay, that's the new rates. Those new rates will be effective in about 6 or 7 parts of the country. The nationwide will be effective March 31st, 2020. Then the flip side of that has to do with the trimming of merchant service charge from 0.75% to 0.50%, and you can see that coming up next there. Banks were also asked to unbundle merchant settlement amount and charge for taxes and duties on individual transactions. What the central bank here is saying that, look, if you look at a merchant who is doing a payment, you need to unbundle the amount and take government taxes and duties out of it. And that is part of the government chasing more revenue and making sure that everyone pay appropriate taxes and duties on whatever transactions we're doing. So merchant settlement amount is now to be unbundled by banks and determine what are the appropriate regulatory taxes and duties to be paid on those transactions. And of course, the big story yesterday was full of announcements. This financial regulator says his monetary policy meeting, earlier scheduled for Monday and Tuesday next week, 23rd and 24th, is now being revised to take place tomorrow, the 19th, Thursday, and Friday, the 20th. Of course, as usual, we'll have the live coverage of the September MPC meeting live for you here on Channel Television on Friday afternoon. You want to keep your eyes on that. That's okay. That's a bit of the stories in the news. So let's get back to the big story everyone's talking about, and that's President Buhari's state of the economy. So a number of polls are taking place about the various aspects of the economy. So we want to have this conversation with the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of NOI Polls, Dr. Chike Nwangu. He's joining us from our Abuja studios. Good morning, Doctor. It's good to have you on the show.
Good morning.
Doctor, can you hear me? Good morning.
Yes, I can hear you, Bosun. Can you hear me?
Thank you. I just need to get your attention directed straight to the camera. So let's get started with the broad economy. And this is my first question. Do you think what we've seen in recent weeks and months probably show that President Buhari is locked and loaded, quote and unquote, as far as the state of the economy is concerned. What's your take?
Well, personally, I think he has plans, and the recent decisions that he has taken shows maybe he wants to try things differently, and what we've been doing in the past obviously might not have worked for him, and he's taking very positive and as an action towards maybe revamping policies or whatever it is that are, as in coming up with new ideas on how to improve our economy. Yeah, so I'm optimistic, yes.
Great. The president would have to run the economy. Now he's put an economic advisory council in place. Then he already has ministers for the second term, which has been announced, and they're getting their feet wet on all the issues they need to focus on. What's your take at NOI polls on the new ministerial team, which are just about a month or so in office?
So, at NOI polls, what we try to do is to gauge people's opinion on people's polls on recent happenings. So we did conduct a poll after the ministerial nominations to kind of gauge what people's expectations are of the new ministers. And it's positive to know that 63% of Nigerians are optimistic that these new sets of ministers will do better than the last set of ministers. And some of the reasons why they gave for that was their capability, they've been tested, they're trusted, and there's going to be more presidential monitoring. However, aside from the 63% that are optimistic, 22% of Nigerians feel that they're just going to be the same. And some of the reasons why they give that, it's they feel it's the same set of people, there was lopsided appointments, and the same agenda. Whereas we feel 15% of Nigerians feel that this set of ministers are going to do worse than the last set of ministers. And the reason they gave for that was corruption. As in corruption, that they are politicians, as in the ministers, and some people also quoted that some of the ministers are old. Yeah. So the bottom line is that there is a lot of optimism, and people are expecting this set of ministers to do better than the last set of ministers.
Mm. At NOI polls, do you agree with that poll? Do you think that poll was correct?
So yes, I agree with the poll because firstly, some of the ministers were returned, and there are some newer people. And I think for every time you have an appointment, there is some level of optimism that people are going to come and do something different from what was being done before. And I think that everybody, that particularly the new ones the new ones that are coming in, would want to leave some legacy behind. So we have reasons to be optimistic. Yes, we are. We agree with the results. Yes.
Yes, but again, your business at NOI polls is about conducting polls, and polls are very one of the best ways known historically to gauge the mood, opinion, feelings, and all of that outlook of people on a certain number of issues. So let's talk about, when we talk about the economy and all of that, oftentimes we focus more on those of us who are men, but we often forget that women are very critical and very important part of the economy, businesses, investments, and the marketplace. They account for most of the jobs. They take very good care of a number of the things that we all be proud of ourselves in. They form a very big part of our GDP, if you know that. Of course, in an economy such as informal as Nigeria. So what are the key issues for women in Nigeria from what you've seen from number of polls you've done?
Okay, thanks, Bosu. So this is a very recent poll, as in we conducted this poll the week of July 22nd, and like you mentioned, it's in Nigeria, as in population of women to men, based on 2006 census, we have about 49% of Nigerians that are women. But despite that, there is real gender gap in terms of leadership, economic management within the country. So we wanted to find out what are the socioeconomic issues that women face in Nigeria. And I must say that we asked the question of, do you think women face any challenge in Nigeria, and every single one of our respondents responded yes. So it's important to know that people identify and know that women face challenges. From the poll finding, the topmost socioeconomic challenge that women face, as reported by our respondents, was lack of financial empowerment. 47% of our respondents pointed to that as a challenge that they face. The second topmost was poverty by 35%, and then lack of access to quality education by 33% of our respondents. Several other things were also pointed out to, like gender inequality, domestic violence, employment, employment inequality, as in discrimination, employment discrimination, were among some of the things that were pointed out. Also, religious discrimination and cultural discrimination were some of the issues that they were pointing out. But if we want to limit this to the economic issues that they face, lack of financial empowerment, poverty, lack of access to soft loans were some of the things that were pointed out as the top issues that they face. And we try to break this down by the geopolitical zones to kind of understand where these issues, as in whether there is any semblance of the same issue across all geopolitical zones. It's interesting to note that lack of financial empowerment was quoted most in the Southwest, and we kind of understand that maybe because Lagos State is part of the Southwest and Lagos being the economic hub of the country might make most women in the Southwest to be more entrepreneurial in what they do. So when we come to poverty was cited most in the Northeast, and the lack of access to quality education was cited most in the Northwest. These are some of the issues that came up from our findings.
Are there solutions being provided for these key topical issues?
Yes. Yeah, so we went, of course, I mean, our role is not just to bring out the problems. We went ahead to ask the women what kind of recommendations do they think can help bridge this gap. And topmost on the solutions that were mentioned were building of training on vocational programs, vocational program trainings for them to be able to get some other soft skills that they can market. They also mentioned access to quality health care. My take on that is maybe once they're healthier, it will be easier for them to engage in other businesses as well. And then most importantly, they mentioned access to soft loan facilities. Quite a lot of people did say if government could institute some sort of soft loan for women to take, that will help in building the women's capacity to run businesses. And again, breaking this down by geopolitical zones, vocational training programs were mentioned most in the Northwest, whereas soft loan was mentioned most in the Southeast and South-South.
So let's talk about health insurance. This is one issue sometimes gets pushed aside or overlooked in the bigger political, economic, anti-corruption, insecurity stories. But health insurance is one issue, and you listen to folks who don't have enough cash to come up for medical treatment, whatever they need, services in Nigeria. Then some says they have HMOs, but it takes hours, sometimes days to get things through. Do you have anything conducted in terms of health insurance coverage here? What does it really show? What are the key problems, and what do you think we can do about it?
Okay, so we did conduct a poll on health insurance. Particularly, this was around when we all signed up for the universal health coverage, and it's sad to note that only 9% of Nigerians have some sort of health insurance. Out of these 9%, 71% of them are covered by the NHIS, whereas 22% are covered by HMOs. 89% of Nigerians still pay out of pocket. And if we want to understand what that means that for every single health issue that you have, you pay from it and you run the risk of having catastrophic health expenditure, which basically means that sometimes you might have to have a hospital bill that you wouldn't be able to afford, or even when you're able to afford it, it sets you back sets you back, as in your account reads red, and you have to start all over again. And for most of our find, the key takeaway from our find is that we did ask respondents were they willing to pay some sort of amount to be able to access healthcare when they need it. As in other words, 78% of Nigerians are willing to pay for health insurance. So the question comes up is why is that not why don't they do that? Why is it only 9% that are currently covered, whereas 17% of the people are willing to pay for health insurance? In some of the places we've discussed some of these results, you find out that people don't know how and don't know what it takes to go around to getting health insurance. So I think there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of educating people on the benefits of having health insurance. So in terms of the demand and supply of health insurance, for the supply, I think the HMOs, the NHIS still has a lot to do in terms of creating awareness and informing people of the steps they need to take and where they can go to purchase health insurance. Whereas on the demand side, despite the 78% that said they want to pay for health insurance, it's important to know that still in Nigeria we have people we still have the culture of, like most medical practitioners would say, it's not my portion. So you find people believing that they wouldn't need it, and that's why they are not really pushed, or there is no sense of urgency for them to purchase health insurance. But the takeaway, like I said earlier, and the comfort for us to know is that Nigerians are willing to pay for health insurance. The question is, why is that not being made available to them, and what can we do about that? Like I said again, the NHS has a big role to play in this.
Dr. Nwangu, I think well, that's well said on health insurance. But a final one for you. We just want you to continue your polls, but I'm sure one thing I will be interested in is President Buhari's job approval rating. Perhaps with the latest moves done since he's coming back into second time, he won the elections and he's swearing in. Maybe it's time to take a second look at his job approval rating, and that will be perhaps an assignment we're handing over to you. Thank you so much for coming through on the show today. Dr. Chike Nwangu, the CEO at NOI Polls.